We're back. What's up, Twitch chat? Game 3, mousesports, Kinguin, 1-1 tie, obviously, or we wouldn't be in a Game 3. MRP, Mike Loris, ESL One Hamburg, EU qualifiers, quarterfinals. Winner moves on to the semi. A lot at stake here. Mouse gonna lean on their IO. Again, into the Night Stalker, but also into the Lich. So the lanes overall are going to be a little more static for Kinguin than they were in Game 1 versus this mousesports IO.
That was the most horrifying opening ever. Why would you do that? Oh
I don't know,
God.
man. It's fucking early. Leave me alone.
Well, either way, as you said, IO once again going to be picked up for mousesports, and Nyx Assassin. We've seen both MNT and Skylark play this hero in the past. And we certainly do get a different feel here with an IO as compared to the first game when it was IO with the AA. Nyx Assassin, he's got the stun. He's able to just right-click a couple heroes in certain situations, certain matchups, drop a couple mana burns against those heroes to give you an advantage. Whereas AA can't really do that same thing. So for sure for mousesports, they'll be able to participate a little bit more in the lanes if it is going to be a Nyx Assassin support with an IO support. And I like that a little bit more than I like the opening they had in Game 1. But for Kinguin, Lich with a Night Stalker, this is some of the most terrifying stuff you can possibly deal with. Night Stalker can give you all the room in the early game. Lich will give you that passive edge. And if you start sacrificing into an IO dual lane, that is just a nightmare for those two heroes. Already they're going to be underleveled because it's a dual lane. And then there's also going to be no range creeps in that lane. Like that is just an absolute nasty lane to deal with. So this is one of the more potent support duos you could possibly pick up coming out from Kinguin, and it's honestly hard to lose your lanes when you have supports like this. You just have to make sure not to fall behind in stuns, and should be able to pretty much pick up whatever the hell they want. No disruptor or something like that, unless they want to run like a Night Stalker core, which is possible, but for sure they'll be answering the IO through their core picks.
Yeah, they're also, from the mousesports side, banning in order to kind of ensure that this IO has a decent early game. Also taking away the Lone Druid, who is a great self-sufficient safe laner, and with the Night Stalker roaming around, the Lich probably parked in the mid lane for the early bit. They're going to need one of those, Weaver, Clinks, Lycan-esque kind of heroes to be able to, Lifestealer comes to mind as well, to kind of hang around alone in that bottom lane for a bit. So we'll see which direction Kinguin go in. Probably not to pick their offlaner here first and foremost.
Well, they're taking their sweet time here. Batrider is out, and Nature's Prophet as well. So it looks like we may be seeing. I don't really expect to see like Darkseer selection for them. Clockwork, I guess, is always a possibility. Mag instead.
Yeah.
Or Kinguin. I'm kind of medium on the Magnus. The hero certainly can be very powerful, but it does depend on how easy of a lane he has. Up against Nyx Assassin, up against IO, knowing that there's not a ton to deal with as far as him getting poked out of lane. I'm actually okay with this hero. I do like it quite a bit, and this is going to set Kinguin up for quite a few options moving forward, seeing as though heroes like Lifestealer, like Troll Warlord, like they haven't been banned out in this early phase, like Anti-Mage. So Kinguin could just take this late and just get a super roided up hero with the EXP lead that they have from the Lich, just lock down the entire game. So I'm quite a big fan of Magnus in this scenario. Mousesports, though, going to go to their roots. This is pure mousesports right now, as Skylark is going to get a Beastmaster.
Yeah, this is one of his favorite heroes to play for sure. And it does make the relocate threat a lot more scary. It is a good kind of pseudo counter to the Night Stalker when you have the Hawk up. You can often be able to scout out his movements or at least find the jump for your squad beforehand. So I really like the Beastmaster pick. However, Magnus is an excellent solution to IO in general. Usually have two heroes in close proximity. He's got a big nuke on a fairly low cooldown, and of course buffs the parry, as you were mentioning previously. PA, not a hero we see all that much recently, but synergizes extremely well with what they have thus far. The Ice Armor to help tank her up. Good front line with the Magnus and the Night Stalker, and of course you have the Empower on top of that. So both teams looking very strong in their drafts thus far. PA, though, she is not a hero that fits the bill of self-sufficient in that safe lane. So being that the Night Stalker is going to roam, Does that mean that the Lich goes off towards the safe lane for the most of the early game? I guess it remains to be seen, but in that case, definitely feels like the IO Tiny can pressure mid.
I mean, Phantom Assassin, if she is going to go safe lane, is expected to match up against Beastmaster, at least a Beastmaster. And though that's not a lane where Phantom Assassin is going to be completely incapable of performing, for sure it's not going to be a lane where they're able to pressure back Skylark unless they have additional heroes there. So it seems like for mousesports, despite going up against this Lich, just with the individual strength of their laners, again, Nyx Assassin probably going to be played as support at this point, but they will have just lanes that force Kinguin into situations that are at worst for both sides mediocre, and that is perfectly fine for mousesports since they do have this acceleration now. IO Tiny with Beastmaster is also a pretty legit combo.
Yeah.
Even more attack speed is something that Tiny just loves. And Phantom Assassin, even if she does have a good start, let's say she's getting above average farm, eventually you're gonna have to go into a fight with a lot of stuns on the other end, including one that's BKB piercing.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to also deal with Craggy Exterior, which for a Phantom Assassin, she's going to have to kind of just outluck the Tiny in those scenarios. I don't know how lucky she's feeling, but that's not an ideal place to be, regardless of how much farm you have. So it does feel like mousesports have a decent set of heroes to deal with this PA. And for all those reasons, well, that's pretty much the reason why we don't really see PA all that often. I feel like if we do see PA, it's usually in that 5th box.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, still, they have great ways to deal with this IO. So it's not necessarily, their goal to go in on heroes like the Tiny or the Nyx initially. I think IO is going to almost always be their first target in these fights. But as you mentioned, I mean, IO probably going to be staying off the map as much as possible behind the Tiny in the shadows, waiting for a Beastmaster with that long duration stun. One of the best relocate setups in the game. And then you have the Avatos combo to follow up. So another kind of pseudo Wisp counter here in the puck. Going to pick that towards the mid lane, which should do decently despite being up against a dual lane. The Legion Commander pick here is actually picked up by Thug. So IO Legion is possible for the mid lane while the Tiny up in the top lane duels it out with the Magnus.
This is an interesting little twist here. I mean, usually when you pick up an IO, you want one IO partner. But in reality, it's actually you want to have at least one IO partner. Just having more options is nothing but good for the team. And being able to jump in with a Legion Commander is about as effective as jumping in with a Tiny. It's certainly very close there. So mousesports running with 3 melee cores will be able to just muscle their way into these lanes. But of course, the problems will arise a little bit later on. This last pick for the Kinguin side, grabbing that puck coil with 3 melee cores, including a 4th melee hero on the mousesports side, means that Puck is going to land all of his spells a lot easier. Chain Frost is going to be a lot larger of a threat, especially since there's also going to be Beastmaster pets on the field. And of course, Magnus is going to be shredding. Not to mention the fact that Magnus amplifies Phantom Assassin with Cleave, which is also going to mean that she's going to be shredding. So this is going to mean that mousesports put themselves in a little bit of a risk position-wise moving forward. But with Skylark scouting, with the Hawk, with MNT scouting, with the Vendetta, you would assume that they would be able to get around that weakness just by vision alone. But it is certainly something that for the Kinguin side, they can exploit.
See how these lanes shake down, but Mouse feel very comfortable with their drafty, curveball at the end, as you were mentioning, with the Legion Commander. See how Thug ends up faring. MNT with the extra bit of move speed, 2 wards, and a windlace on his person. Are going to join him up, get him out under the cover of smoke towards this mid lane.
XD. XD.
Oh, the shush. The shush emote. All right. I'm gonna go with these teams don't love each other. I will say that much. That for sure we know.
Oh shit. There's something to be said about like shit talk, and there's something else to be said about trying to goad the enemies into shit talking you. Like that's just next level, man.
Barton draws a heart on the minimap. Always fun to watch these 5 players play. All the stakes here. Moving on to the semifinals for the winner. Loser goes home. First major of the new season. Qualifier here. Thug, bottom lane with Spartan. Patos looking to cliff someone, maybe? Can he get in range of Thug? He cannot, and they will ping out the cliff. Will MNT.
Charge in. That would have been so nice for Patos. Mostly because IO kind of requires that early bounty rune just to get that bottle up until the point you get that bottle, or if you die trying to get that bounty rune, your life is so miserable as an IO since Tether at that point is pretty goddamn useless. So it was a close attempt, but they are going to leave Thug on this bottom lane. Give Madara his tiny, but this Legion Commander versus Magnus 1v1 matchup is actually pretty nice for the Legion. She is going to have a decent matchup versus most melee heroes, and not going to be a lane where she can prevent Magnus from farming, but Mag is going to
the toss to the low ground on Nisha mid lane. He's already used his illusory orb. He's not going to die here, but he will cop a lot of damage. Very interesting play. They had the tethered IO here, the tiny on the high ground, and he tossed down. It was pretty cool. Either way, shiny.
This is a dangerous lane for a puck. That's not really very frequently seen. MNT also roaming in, already dropped a handful of one mana burn on Nisha, now another. Nisha does have a little bit of extra regen coming out to him right now, and that's all well and good, but now that Tiny is level 2, Nisha's got to watch himself. Avalanche Toss is really, really difficult to land on a puck because he's just going to be very far away from the creep wave, but still, Nisha doesn't really have safety for that for quite a long time. You can dodge a little bit of the avalanche or a little bit of the toss, but you can't dodge at all. And they will have the bottle on Spartan to keep spamming that out. So this lane, pretty rough. And up towards top lane, Skylark, he is actually with
skill build, yeah.
wild axes, but still, he's not really worried in this lane.
Perhaps when MNT was up there near the bounty rune skirmish, they maybe had kill potential on Ellie Sasha. If you look at the Lich, he's almost out of regen at this point, and likely he pulled a couple tangos, but feels like they probably skilled this up with a bit of kill potential. May end up, kind of biting him in the rear a little bit later on, as you'd like to have some points in the wild axes, but either way, it doesn't seem like he's punished too heavily for it at this point. Katsor just rotating around, going to find himself the bounty rune. Bottom lane, as we mentioned before, it's just going to be the 1v1 matchup in bottom, and Thug is winning this one. The mid lane player may be a little bit more comfortable with the 1v1s than the off laner, and it is a fairly favorable matchup on paper. 13-3 to his 6-0 of his counterpart. Mid lane, Avalanche flows out.
Overwhelming odds as Patos sits in the full creep wave.
Wow.
And then the rundown with the extra movement speed from Overwhelming Odds, the Orb of Venom, and Boots advantage. So that's, I don't even know how much movement speed, but like at least 70 movement speed differential between those two heroes. And Patos just didn't see that one coming. You have to watch out against that Overwhelming Odds. You can't sit in the creep wave, but that's going to be a huge pickup for Thug. Once he gets Phase Boots, this lane is all but over for Patos. He needs...
Oh, Madara mid lane misses the avalanche. Else it could have been a kill there on Nisha. But yeah, as you were mentioning, pretty costly death here. Yeah, they do. No mana for the orb as well. They can just chase down the puck here. He has a phase shift, but that's about it. Nice void from the Night Stalker should keep him alive for the time being, but toss back into tower range. They get the tether slow off. It'll be 2 right clicks coming through from the tower. Madara needs a little bit more mana and won't just get it, as the bottle now empty on Spartan. But fun to see these two play in the mid lane, and now Thug with that level advantage. Well, Patos just now hitting level 4, but Thug soon to be level 5, just able to body him up in this bottom lane. MNT maybe looking to execute a side pull here, top lane. Has picked up his level 2 on the Nyx Assassin, so not concernedly behind at this point. And Skylark gonna look to eclipse the level 3 here with this bounty rune at 4 minutes.
Not the best experience lane for the Beastmaster up against that Lich, but that's entirely to be expected. It's great, as you said, to see the IO and the Tiny play like this, and I don't really know how much this factors into it necessarily, but these guys have been playing together on a team for easily years now, right?
Since 2014, at least.
Yeah, geez, like the communication you gotta assume is damn near perfect. Like I want to say better than the vast majority of teams out there. So going for these combos that require very proper timing, it's gonna be a lot easier for these guys to pull it off compared to some other teams out there. Not to mention the fact that Spartan is just incredible incredibly comfortable on the IO. Madara doesn't really get to play Tiny all that much, simply because this is not really entirely viable, at least as much as it used to be. But still, they're doing a pretty darn good job in the mid lane, just making Nisha's life very difficult, making sure that they're getting the creep advantage. And also in their back pocket, they're going to have, well, another Avalanche Toss. Will do a lot of damage. Night Stalker, can he clean up here? Baron TP out, should be fine. They will all live, but they also have stacks for later, just in case.
Yeah, a couple of double stacks. Meanwhile, top lane, Skylark finally finding some space by his lonesome as MNT just looking to kind of harass the Lich here. Gain a little experience from him as well. He does execute a pull, so will deny a few creeps away from the Beastmaster. Meanwhile, Thug pretty much free farming despite having a kill in the bottom lane. Has almost at parity in terms of CS with the PA across the way. Skylark, though, in trouble now. He's going to be slowed up by the Frost Blast. The Void will be there, and the Stifling Dagger coming through. He gets a stick up, but the Blink Forward from Exotic Deer will find the kill on the Beastmaster. Now maybe next time in a little bit of trouble. Has 5 stick charges here, and now a rotation through from Madara. It will lift him up in the air. They'll stick up. They have a mana burn. Maybe could have waited just a couple of seconds for the stun, actually, on MNT, but the IO Spirits will help them out in that cause, and the Tether keeping MNT alive. Now, Illusory Orb, Dream Coil, nicely played through by Nisha in the pit. Will get the return kill for his squad. So a 2-for-1 when all is said and done, going Kinguin's way, but they do have the PA leave lane momentarily in order to net that kill.
Nisha forced the orb to jaunt to the orb that he threw out behind the tier 1 just to dodge that Madara combo. At this point, Tiny level 6, so his combo's damage power ramping up in a big way, and Blink Dagger, given the pace of this game, unless something drastically changes, should be up at a really quick timing for him, and I would expect for Thug as well. Has the phase boots already, a necessity up against any 1v1 matchup. You need that damage advantage, and especially for Legion Commander in particular, you need that damage overall. But Blink Daggers should be coming up pretty quickly here for Mouse, and this is a great way to get around that EXP deficit that currently they're facing on the top lane because of that Lich. Just go super aggro and get these burst kills. Tiny is the king of that. Legion Commander, I guess you could say, is the queen of that. So yeah, once these items come up, big opportunities for mousesports to smooth over this Beastmaster's power curve.
Yeah, Katsor being a little cheeky in the Radiant jungle there. He actually soaks up all the nearby experience from both of those camps that were taken out by the combination of the IO and the Tiny. In the mid lane, though, Coil again expended for the next kill. Now rotating through. Crippling Fury is going to be there for the time being. Skylark, though, he's here. Does not have a level 6. But he has a couple of boars nearby. Can they get in range for a right click? It doesn't seem like that's the case for now. Meanwhile, jaunting out to the north, Nisha will be able to make it back to safety, but the TP in to the shrine should ensure the kill here on the Night Stalker. Wild Axis will give them a little bit of vision. The spiked or the impale will be short from the Nyx Assassin still, though with a tether they should be able to chase down this Beastmaster, and it is a long chase all the way from the top lane for Skylark, but it will net him a kill. He tries to grab the last hit there. Spartan, though, will be the one to net it for his squad.
Call that space creation.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Night Stalker, not the right time to go on a chase like that, as day was about to break, and who knows, with the Hunter in the Night movement speed, with the option to fly over some trees, it could have been even more time bought for the team, and it is good time for Exotic Gear to go up towards top lane, keep farming as that PA, get those levels up, and as you get higher level as PA, the lane gets worse and worse for any one hero to rotate up here. Mask of Madness, the selection for PA, which is, I mean, it's always going to be that high risk, high reward type item. In this particular matchup against this many physical damage dealers, including roars, including stuns, this is even riskier, so yeah, it'll help her farm. And my god, that's a stack to farm. But as far as fighting is concerned, she does have to be careful. Speaking of being careful, MNT.
Yep, third coil of the game. All expended on the Nyx thus far, but he will actually be able to survive this one now that he has a point in the Carapace. So able to body Nisha back, and Nisha has expended the Dream Coil, so that'll be down for the next little while. I mean, Mask of Madness, I think, more of a farming-oriented item than anything.
Bottom. Duel. Damage. Not quite.
No nuke there as well afterwards, and the TP in from the Lich will ensure that Thug can't continue to chase forward. But nothing really lost but a cooldown for the time being. And in the meantime, when they made that chase, PA unable to put any sort of structural pressure on the Radiant top lane, so that off lane tier 1 still very healthy. In fact, pretty much all the towers in the game still very healthy through this early game. The mid one for the Radiant, the one to take the most.
This is where the fun is going to end, though. Madara does have a Blink Dagger on the Courier, and it's now on his guy. And oh, that's actually an armlet being built up on the Legion
8 seconds
commander.
till duel. Phase forward from Thug. He gets silenced up. Katsor. Oh, but in the river, though. Madara baiting the regen rune. Will jump forward, find the puck. Can he kill him off, though? No, phase shift is there, and he gets the regen. Nisha. Meanwhile, the TP in from Exotic Deer and the Chain Frost coming through. They kill off Spartan. Double kill. Great rotation from the PA. They'll shrine up. So she will be no worse for wear, having made that rotation, and will assume the top spot on the network. They get a big kill onto Thug. And the reveal of the Blink Dagger doesn't net anything for this Tiny. There is a Primal Roar top lane. Relocate not available yet, as the IO is just level 5. A couple of boars, though, putting some right-click punishment into Katsor. And a rotation through from Madara. Should net this kill without the need for a Roar. The Hawk is nearby, giving them vision, and jump forward toss will save the avalanche for now for Madara and put some pressure into this tower.
They do end up killing the Night Stalker now twice, once on top lane, and Legion was able to seal the deal on the bottom lane, just chasing down with those phase boots and that movement speed given to her by the overwhelming odds. But again, overall, a really subpar way of showing off your Blink Dagger on the Tiny. Still has it, and with the target in the Lich. Good luck, bro. Oh, Avalanche toss. Okay, it looked like it was gonna miss, maybe.
Meanwhile, bottom lane, they're going to look for a duel here. Relocate down. Exotic Deer gets Primal Roared up. Jump forward from Madara. They get the spirits off. The duel is there. Good patience from Mouse. And you mentioned the communication and the comfort between these heroes. It definitely shows there as they get a big kill on Exotic Deer. First duel win of the game for Thug as well. And they'll defend mid lane as they'll take out the puck. Siege Creep still hitting away on the tower. They need to deny this. Madara will be successful in doing so. And a very beneficial set of circumstances in the last couple minutes for mousesports. They do end up losing the Spartan Wisp to Paytos, but when all is said and done, very good trade across the map.
Tiny Blink Dagger, man. Once that item comes up, game gets a lot less fun for the Kinguin side. Even a hero as elusive as Puck, not able to survive that burst. They will find Thug, but Thug has backup and going into a tier 1.
And Chain Frost will only bounce once. Thug should have a press the attack. It is level 2. Has the armlet as well. Exotic Deer in trouble. Dueled up. Brought down. Coil will connect onto 2. Nisha jumping through. Can't even kill off Spartan just yet. And will be in trouble on his in his own right. He gets the phase shift off. There is a Carapace though, so can't just orb away just yet. Overwhelming odds, excuse me. Finishing him off. Paytos is there. Has an RP, but doesn't have any follow-up, so chooses not to expend it just yet. He'll be dead as well. And now the Primal Roar from Skylark on the north side. The body blocks are there for Katsor as well. They're going to get the tether move speed forward. Skylark trying to chase. Spirits will be out and there. Spartan finding the kill. Overwhelming odds not even needed. Double kill for the Wisp. And across the board, they bring down 4 heroes for the mousesports side without losing one of their own. A huge swing in their favor as they assume a couple K in the way of a net worth lead.
And the most baffling thing about that is that they were able to put that fight together without Madara, who was on top lane, farming, pushing the entire time. So Tiny getting a couple of seconds of valuable free CS, and of course tower pressure and whatnot. So yeah, Madara wasn't even needing that engagement. That was unfortunately like Mag coming in with no mana. Could have landed a 3-man RP, but as you said, it was way too late by that point. Puck, unfortunately, not with line of sight around the trees. Could have killed off the IO with just one more right click, but didn't see the IO. Just a whole series of unfortunate events for Kinguin. I think someone should purchase Tango. But yeah, that was just mousesports forcing the issue. And Thug with that armlet, incredibly potent in these fights.
Okay?
Still have a Blink Dagger. And speaking of Blink Dagger, Elisash.
Yeah.
Good luck.
He's going to get Avatos. The Nyx is nearby. They're hoping that they'll bring in backup so they can get an extra kill off the back of it. But MNT will just secure the gold for himself. Grabs up the mana burn to finish that Lich off. And yeah, maybe bot lane just underestimating the tankiness of the Legion Commander with the armlet. They initiate on her, kind of find her out of position, but they don't nearly have enough damage. Bring her down to about half HP. She heals up, pops the armlet, and maybe a good bait there by Thug to bring them in. But either way, that's going to be, up until this point in the game, the major turning point. MNT top lane is going to do a little bit of scouting. He finds Peytos here. Relocate, not available for another 50 seconds, however. They do TP in. Yeah, they TP in the Madara. And with the Empower, beautifully played. Madara jumping forward, being economical about it.
Centaur saved
takes
him.
it down to the low ground. Blink. Oh, the avalanche from the high ground and the overwhelming odds there. Maybe a little bit too conservative for Madara there. Looked like, oh, he may have been lagging, I suppose, with this pause, but just looked like he wanted to save the avalanche and ends up having to use it anyways to grab the kill. Either way, they get the Wisp on the other side of the map, but still a good trade here for Mouse, and it's actually right before the Blink Dagger purchase of the Magnus. So nicely played by MNT and Madara. Very unfortunate or untimely death, I would say, for Magnus.
Man, that is a lick-spiked Carapace up against a Magnus who just wants to farm within power. Like, yeah, it will happen every single time. It just doesn't really cross your mind that's a possibility until it actually happens. And as a Mag, like, there's nothing you can do about that. Still had a chance with that Centaur. Kind of screwed over Kratos in the last game, but trying to help out, redeem himself, that neutral in this game. Not quite there. It's only a Centaur after all. But yeah, losing the IO, not a big deal. It doesn't even have to relocate, so can't really help out that much either. We now have a gem on the Beastmaster as he's starting to build in towards the Heaven's Halberd with the Medallion of Courage already up on Skylark. That is just going to be a nightmare for PA to deal with.
Yeah, Exotic Deer, after a great start and a good early rotation, just doesn't seem as big of a threat as she was a moment ago. You know, a lot of this net worth of hers kind of committed to farming with her current build-up, whereas mousesports certainly geared to fight. They're going to find a Primal Roar, and they're going to relocate in on top of the puck. They get off the combo, even though the Waning Rift comes out. Avalanche was already thrown. Now Madara looking for the toss back onto the PA, and he actually walks to the left just briefly, unfortunately. MNT, though, by the rune, is going to find a stun onto the PA. They don't have the follow-up, however, as they relocated back to the top lane, and MNT will back himself out of any peril.
Oh, but he's on a collision course, the Night Stalker. Just out of sight. Barton wants to place this Obs, has a tether out, but can't quite get there. I don't think. He's silenced, he's dead.
Yeah, they have a lot of ways to kill IO here, unfortunately.
Yeah. And they do clear out that Observer, though. I mean, very obvious why an Aya would be there of all places. So, losing Spartan yet again is going to give Magnus a little bit of extra cash. Reveals the Blink Dagger, though. Not exactly ideal. For mousesports, though, Thug, he's busy farming right now. Armlet Blink. And, yeah, Blade Mail or something along those lines, perhaps, for Thug. But it does seem like they do need to start mixing in this Legion Commander a little bit more for these kills. Perhaps onto Nisha now, as MNT with Vendetta is looking to set up for a tiny play.
The entire lineup behind him. We're now starting to see kind of the hesitation or the tentativeness of the Kinguin lineup with the threat of the constant Primal Roar into relocate. Now the Blink Duel into relocate. Oh, and they're going to pop the smoke immediately with MNT. He'll hit a Ravage 3-hero stun. Jump forward from Madara. Goes right in onto the Magnus, but he gets the RP off onto 2. Can they follow it up? They're doing decent damage. They'll bring down 1. Madara, he's still surviving, though, on the Tiny, but they end up getting 4. Thug now having to TP out will be successful in doing so. It ends up being a 4 for 3. It's a double kill for Exotic Deer on the PA, and that is a wicked 6 streak ended for Madara. So Exotic Deer, tons of gold there for him. The PA nets about 1,000 through that fight, and if you look at the metrics overall, it's 1,500 experience net and about 1,500 gold net as well, going the way of the Kinguin side.
RP was good. They tried to burst down the Magnus and couldn't quite get there in time, but the real MVP of that fight for the Kinguin side was the Lich. 2,096 damage, Chain Frost bouncing only between enemy heroes, and MNT looking for the Jack of the Aegis is going to get there a little bit too slowly.
Thug, though, jumps forward. He is going to get the kill for the Radiant side, but snatched is the Aegis by the PA. Now the Wisp coming through. They're trying to get this duel done, and they will win it against the puck. Now jumping forward is Madara. He gets an Avatos combo off, but won't kill anyone. Now the Primal Roar comes through. Puck actually buying back into the game here as they will finish off the Wisp. Now Puck rolling through, has the coil. Madara in trouble. Tossed up, brought down though. We'll try to get the exotic deer kill. He'll pop the Aegis at least with that last right click. Luckily enough, not evaded, but still a really rough fight in the pit there for Mouse. They commit 2 heroes early in the Nyx and the Legion. They die off. The Wisp gets killed. Madara in the back end as well. I mean, it costs a Puck buyback, but at this point in the game for Kinguin, it seems well worth it. Puck does not have a blink and will not for the next little while, but it's going to secure them a tier 2, and it did for a moment secure them Aegis, although Exotic Deer had it popped.
EA is just not getting burst down in these engagements. Tower will be claimed. MNT, be careful.
Jump forward, RP going to find 2. The skewer back. The Chain Frost is there, but doesn't bounce nicely as it hops over to the creep still, though they kill both of the targets. Caught by the RP. Decisive movement from Paytos. And the last 4 minutes or so have been devastating for the Radiant side.
You know what item was picked up in the last 4 minutes? It was the Magnus Blink Dagger. This S&Y on Phantom Assassin, Veil on Puck. Not bad items in their own right, but just that ability for Kinguin to start engagements on their own end means that Tiny with the Blink, Legion Commander with the Blink, as powerful as they are, they have to see the enemies. They have to go in first, and the Night Stalker, Nighttime Vision, doing a little bit better than the birds for Skylark, at least for right now, as far as starting those engagements. And even if an engagement was to start, it kind of needs to go on this PA. She is a little bit bulkier now. She has maxed out Blur. That mischance is going to be quite annoying, but it is certainly feasible for mousesports to burst down a hero of PA still with the amount of damage they're able to put out. The problem is that they're not getting the jump on her. They really, really need a Roar to land or an Avalanche Toss combo to land or something. So far, that has just not been the case. Every single time, at least in the past couple minutes, it's been Kinguin starting the fights.
They drop a Sentry. MNT in trouble. Yeah, he's going to be dropped. Gets the Carapace off, just delaying the inevitable, though.
That's so many kills.
It's a concern at this point where, you know, at the 15-14 minute mark, they had Kinguin 5-manning out of the fear of the relocate. And that in that sense, it was advantageous for Mouse, but then they couldn't continue to find pickoffs. And now with these last few engagements, when there's a substantial experience lead, you know, to the tone of 7K now for the Kinguin side, despite all of this 5-manning they've done, it's a major concern for the Mouse side. So the 5-man was absolutely the appropriate response to the style of play that Mouse were imploring there earlier on, but now Mouse just kind of seem a little bit spread. They've gone for these initiation items, as you mentioned, you know, with the Night Stalker Darkness and with the Magnus Blink. It's been Kinguin's the ones to initiate, and Madara blinks up to the west. They're continuing to pursue him out. Smoke did get popped briefly by MNT, but just on the Magnus. The rest of the heroes still under the cover of smoke, although Mouse seems to be well aware of their opponent's intentions at this point. They will take out the tier 2 top lane with the combination of Thug and Skylark.
It did seem like 5-man earlier was out of desperation, and now they just want to 5-man.
Yeah.
And Mouse don't want Kinguin to 5-man anymore, because when the enemies are moving around like this, the relocate on the IO just gets so much weaker. The Nyx Assassin is prone to being spotted and killed as he's in the middle of nowhere. Everyone's actually coming into this. Like, usually you expect to find like a Night Stalker or a Lich with a Vendetta, but everyone to come in like that, the Kinguin are not looking to get separated at all, and is working out so very well for them. Nyx dead for like 3rd or 4th time in as many minutes. So yeah, Kinguin are just finding the pickoffs, and Mouse are splitting the map a little bit. Still getting some decent farm on Madara, still getting some decent farm on Thug. So you can't really ignore that net worth gain on them. But for right now, they're not really using their Blink Dagger. Concerned because Kinguin are using all the assets that are available to them.
So, Dota 2 trivia. How do you counter 5-man as a Legion commander? By Aghanim Scepter, I guess. Thug's got it queued up. He wants to duel someone and no one else can contribute. Madara TPing out top lane. Spartan will do so along or by his side. But this will be interesting to see if this actually pans out for Thug. I think he's actually committed to buying the point booster. Yeah, so he will be completing up this Ags relatively shortly. As he is fairly close, sitting on 1,500 gold. So yeah, only 400 gold away from finishing that up. And I think, you know, the reaction has been appropriate from Mouse in the last couple of minutes. Just trying to commit some split push here. The puck, though, keeping in, and it is darkness. Now Thug is forward. They can jaunt for the Dream Coil, but there's no immediate follow-up just yet. M&T looking to flank the backlines. He finds the Lich. But he will back out to safety for now. They will not get the tier 2 as it's defended. And in the meantime, the Dire eliminate the tier 1 a little bit late into the game. But they'll get themselves some extra gold. Now Madara in trouble. Gets solo RP'd. Skewered down towards the tower. And they will find him. Nice relocate save, though, from Spartan. So Coil's been expended. RP's been expended. Do they bring back the Tiny is the question. MNT out into the cover. And then it looks like they'll just sacrifice the Wisp for Spartan here. Well worth it, though, I think, on the respawn of Spartan. They can potentially fight, which they have been unable to do for the last while with RP off the board for 90 seconds.
It's not really the longest cooldown to exploit, but for sure they're ready with these additional items. Aghanim Scepter, as you said, on the Legion Commander. But perhaps just as importantly, the Heaven's Halberd complete on the Beastmaster. Slap that on the PA. She really can't do much about it until this Lincoln Sphere comes up. But I actually haven't seen Legion Commander go for an Aghanim Scepter, like, ever.
I've done it.
So I'm not entirely sure how effective it's going to be. It is going to be very much so reliant on who she actually decides to duel with. No Blade Mail. That means that dueling Exotic Deer is not a good idea. So that's probably not a good option for her, but everyone else, I'm pretty sure with this Ags, should be, I mean, safe. Maybe not a straight kill, but she definitely won't die to it.
Thug queuing up to press the attack top, but unable to find anyone. And that's going to be the window, pretty much expired. I figured with the relocate, they may be able to Primal Roar and make a quick play, but Skylark got a bit of cold feet bottom lane. He TP'd out, and that RP will be up momentarily. So no real advantage left now for mousesports.
Double damage.
Do you know if this dual Ags gives you like complete immunity?
It's like a BKB.
RP'd, that's BKB piercing.
It's exactly like a BKB. So
okay.
You will still get RP'd, but it is a very long duration duel. I think it's almost 5 seconds. 4.75 at level 2 here. So.
And Thug knows that he is able to 1v1 anyone. Except for that PA, of course, is still sitting on top lane. We still have Skylark sitting on bottom lane. Pretty standard Beastmaster stuff, honestly. Unfortunately, does not have any Necro units, nor does he have that level 15, so he doesn't have that additional bore for the additional push power. But this constant pressure on these side lanes will force Kinguin, at least right now, back from their mid lane push. And the hope here is that for mousesports, they're able to separate Kinguin at least somewhat and get the initiation off. Nisha almost stunned himself against that spike.
The relocate. This is inopportune here. He's going to phase shift it away as they had the War Vision nearby. RP, though, it does whiff. Now Mouse may be looking to go back in. No, they're just going to sacrifice Spartan. As Madara will get under the cover of Shadowblade. He blinks out to the north. Can they find him? He has no TP. He's going to die here as well. Mouse with a bit of a miscue there. And they are going to end up dropping. Just absolutely desperate for a pickoff. And I was just about to raise the point. It was a bit curious to me. They had Hawk Vision here. Well, that's a bit of a big drawing about there. But they had no other vision in the area. No sort of Tinker Ward, which actually the Dire has. And Skylark was just parked bottom for 2 or 3 minutes waiting for this pickoff. They finally see a hero, but he backs off towards the shrine and they relocate kind of out of position where naturally there would be Ward Vision. And unfortunately missing the blink initiation on the puck there. Nice reaction time from Nisha, but Mouse maybe with a bit of bloodlust there are going to be punished pretty heavily bottom lane.
Not an elegant way of initiating, at least for the Beastmaster right now. If you wander into someone and roar, it may work sometimes, but not up against a puck. You definitely do need a Force Staff or a Blink Dagger, and he's got the Blink Dagger queued up now, but obviously that's not going to be helping him then. So mousesports, as you said, get it a little bit too far ahead of themselves, and we'll find Katzer though in the middle of nowhere. Unfortunately, the duel blocks the entirety of that avalanche toss, and he's gonna live.
Yeah, they get the Shadow Amulet off, or Glimmer Cape, not sure what it was, but either way, they kill Madara on the south side. And that is, you know, that is just, I guess, by virtue of never really seeing this item, never really being used to practicing this item, and just a miscue from Thug. He should have just let the Avatos combo complete and would have had that duel easily. Madara could have probably extracted himself from any further danger, but now they have 3 heroes dead, with Spartan dying on the back end as well. In base somehow. And now they will push up towards the high ground.
He was teleporting out, and he was coiled, so it snapped and it killed him. And that's how that worked, in case anyone is wondering. But only wild axes, that level 3 wild axes does about nothing up against this PA and her armor. With all the ice being provided to them by the Lich. That's Rax cleaned out mid lane. No response from Mouse. And that just goes to show why, as Legion Commander, we don't really see this item all that often. Usually there are no double-edged sword Aghanim upgrades. It's just strict upgrades. But for Legion Commander, it is certainly one where you have to be careful. She is very powerful for right now, but is not even able to duel and straight kill off an enemy Night Stalker. You would at least be able to expect to kill off an enemy support with a duel like that. But just falling short, that's a big problem for mousesports. They have to make sure that Legion Commander finds someone kind of off on the side, and like, she can kill off a Lich. No one else really.
Yeah, and then, you know, Kinguin does have ways to kind of contribute indirectly to the duel with the ice armor, even though the Ags is there, whereas, you know, you can't use a tether on a spell immune target. So
you have Shine, you have Empower. It's so many tools. Just kind of cheat through the Aghanim Scepter. They're going to jump forward on the bottom. Exotic Deer and Nisha very separated from their allies, but still very confident.
Spartan able to tether down. Again, Mouse playing in this bottom area of the map, though, and they will be found out on Thug. And he has a duel, but can't really go for it here. So low in HP. Trying to armlet toggle through, but the coup de grace will answer to that. 1100 damage crit for Exotic Deer. And Exotic Deer's net worth is looking a lot like the CK's net worth for Madara of last game. Just absolutely out of control at this point. MNT in trouble. Crippling feared up. He's going to drop top lane more than likely. He attempts the TP out. Coil, though? Well, not even needed. Illusory Orb will be there from Nisha.
Oh, Madara's looking to get some revenge, though. There is a gem on the puck. And he's not going to find the opening. They're also looking for bottom lane. Skylark Bird. Up in the sky, it's Patos and Exotic Deer. With an Aegis on this PA, even if they do relocate in, they run the risk of getting RP'd and then just cleaved in half. So that's a little bit too risky. They'll go for the Lich instead. They missed their entire combo.
Madara under the cover of Silver Edge, but the sentry nearby have an RP ready as well. Oh, jumps forward into the toss, does the Magnus, and they will relocate out the Tiny. Meanwhile, top, they are relocate right out into Nisha, but the Wisp is going to end up paying with his life. 40 seconds on the sideline, and Madara has looked a bit uncomfortable this game on the Tiny. Not sure how long it's been since they played this combo, but I mean, IO is a Mouse special, so it really, you know, has to be something he plays fairly often. But a couple of costly misses on these avalanches throughout the game, and this will be the window of opening, a window of opportunity for Kinguin to jump up to the high ground. Exotic Deer, Aegis in hand, BKB and Lincoln's and Cheese on top of that is going to be a very difficult kill. Jumping up to the high ground, popping the dust is the Night Stalker, but really just a glancing blow as they simply facilitate the push of the Raxes here. Decent sized overwhelming odds, going to hit onto 2, but it'll be the melee Rax forfeit. Meanwhile, top lane, they're trying to split push it out. Thug going to go in, trying to cancel TPs. Does connect on the duel on the puck. However, the RP pretty much going to stop that up entirely. They'll kill off the Nyx in the meantime, and Thug simply will stall things out. They do get the tier 3 top lane with Madara, who blinks out down to the low ground. Spartan is nearby there as well. Thug has even joined the fray with the Wisp, but does not have a duel, and he's just going to lose to a fight with the PA. Meanwhile, Nisha taking out the IO as he returns. Madara into some certain danger here. He gets underneath the cover of the Silver Edge, though, and Skylark returns. They get the pushback on the Primal Roar, and they will stop up the puck. He's low on mana, is this Nisha puck, but has enough for the Blink and the Orb. And we'll look for the TP out. Stun is there from Madara. Blinks forward, gets the toss. That is a gem, so not entirely inconsequential. But they do lose quite a few heroes. They lose their melee racks as well. And mid lane completely destroyed in addition.
Yeah, I like the attempt there from Mouse. Try to split push on the bottom lane. Just try to get something out of that engagement since they still not deal with this PA. She has Lincoln Sphere and still that double life, which should be reclaimed pretty soon now. But actually killing off the PA, I want to say Blade Mail on the LC could have maybe facilitated that pick if it was picked up, a while ago. Still can for sure. She will return a lot of physical damage back. But this Aghanim Scepter on LC, we've seen it now used for 2 duels, both of which were very, very unimpressive. As like Legion was just sitting there, the dual target was just sitting there, and they were just hitting each other, but they weren't doing any damage to one another. So it didn't really matter in the end. It was just like a really bad version of Rasta Shackles. That's not good enough, man. That's not good enough for this hero. That's not good enough for a 4,000 gold item. You need to be able to keep getting these dual wins as Legion Commander. That's one of the biggest assets that Mouse have, but they're slowly creeping forward into the entirety of Kinguin.
Hawk will be obliterated. Somebody called PETA. And now the instant smoke from Kinguin's side. Looking to find someone, and it looks like Mouse. They may just find Madara in the mid lane. Thug is nearby as well. Snap reactions from Peytos on the RPs have been perfect thus far. And he finds one with the skewer on Spartan. And he has been an absolute monster on the Magnus this game. You talked about it, near the 20-minute mark with that first pickup of the Blink Dagger. 2 very handy team wins for them, and now they'll take out the tier 2 bottom lane. Their lanes are in a decent position elsewhere. Mid and top is the closest to the Dire base, but still nowhere near in a threatening distance at this point. And Kinguin already with a lane of racks and a melee racks top, gonna look for this final lane bottom. 10 seconds, no Spartan. Skylark up top lane. Big reflection on the spike Carapace into Exotic Deer, but it's not really the opening they're looking for. Jump forward from Thug. He's going to try and find the duel. He will lock down the puck, but they'll kill off Madara in the meantime. Exotic Deer getting to work with the BKB. Buyback from Madara, but in the meantime, just cleaned up on the Nyx is MNT. And Exotic Deer still cheese in hand. BKB down, but cheese in hand. Ready to go. They're going to go for tier 4s here. Madara and Spartan. Last ditch effort from them, and now the TP's back come through aplenty. Spartan gets under the cover of the Shadow Amulet. Madara will get the kill on the Lich. Lich buys back immediately, dusts up Madara, and this should be the beginning of the end for the Mouse side. As Madara out in no man's land, and that is a death for 100 seconds with no buyback for the Tiny.
The puck had plus 25 armor on him when he was dueled, so he was actually taking no damage to the Legion Commander. And because it's a puck, he was doing no damage to the Legion Commander, and those two of them just were right-clicking each other. I mean, the duel perhaps with the Aghanim Scepter would be a little bit more useful if you can keep the enemies purged or something like that. If you make the enemy magic immune, all pretty sick. But all these effects of Solar Crest, Ice Armor from the Lich, making this Legion Commander's physical damage really difficult to pull off, and Tiny is very much so the same. And still with 50 seconds left on the clock, no creeps here yet, but they really fight Exotic Deer, who still has cheese and BKB at 8 seconds.
Spartan going to go under the cover of Shadow Amulet as a Stifling Dagger can just kill him off. Jump forward, RP is going to catch 2. Now Exotic Deer with the BKB jumping forward. He's going to take out 1 instantly. That's going to be Skylark's Beastmaster. Thug has to buy back as well as he drops. Glyph is going to be popped, but this is just time for Kinguin to really reset here. Thug can't really initiate on the PA. He'll try to do it and let the rest of his lineup deal with the remainder of Kinguin, but he will regret deeply that decision to duel up the PA, who will shred the Legion to bits. And that'll be the end of the game and the series here. Kinguin. GG Purple. Gonna do some BM bad talking as Thug will disconnect from the game. Kinguin looked really sharp in this last game, Mike. Specifically, the play of Peytos on the Magnus was very good. That first rotation as well, bottom lane from Exotic Deer, seemed to pole vault him up to net worth and into a very favorable game thereafter.
Mouse certainly had a lot going for them in this game when they got those 2 Blink Daggers up on the Legion and the Tiny. I think that was going to be the time for them to be unstoppable. I do think it was that that shrine fight, or that fight near the shrine, where they got the 3-man impale and then got smashed by the Lich's Chain Frost that really just put a halt to all of Mouse's momentum.
Yep.
And when you have Blink Dagger Tiny, a Blink Dagger Legion, it's all about momentum. You got to just kind of get kills, rinse, repeat forever. And that just didn't happen. They couldn't find any kills anymore. And Exotic Deer at that point just took complete control. Damage-wise, mousesports couldn't compare. So Kinguin, again, showing up, and these guys are looking, as you said, pretty darn sharp.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the graphs. I mean, up until the 20-minute mark, Mouse were getting a slow but steady lead, and that fall off near the shrine there, as you mentioned. MNT hits a 3-man impale, but the Magnus was just in front. Tiny goes in, stuns only the Magnus rather than using, his avalanche on the 3 targets. They can't burst him down. Coil comes out because the puck wasn't follow-up stun after the Knicks, and it was just disaster from thereafter. So yeah, really good play, really good decisiveness and movement from Kinguin. They made the appropriate reaction to 5-man. They will move on to the semifinals. Mouse, unfortunately, will be eliminated from contention for this major, and qualifiers, as of recent times, haven't necessarily been good to them. But for now, guys, that'll be it for the ESL One Hamburg EU qualifiers. We continue on with CIS a little bit later today. You can find myself and Franz here on Join Dota Yellow for the Vega versus Navi match at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can find Mike over on Join Dota Green for some South American Dota alongside Kefka, and that's going to start a little bit later on at about 4 p.m. Eastern. So stay tuned for that, guys. All the Join Dota channels will be active today with some more ESL One Hamburg qualifiers. But until then, I hope you enjoyed the cast, and we'll see mousesports defeated here as Kinguin move on. They'll face the winner of SFT versus OG.